Hi everyone, I'm Professor Luchin, and this is a supplement or updated video to our lecture 11. In the posted lecture video, I covered the Dane County COVID numbers as of I believe it was I think I went through July. Yeah, I think I went through July. And so now what I like to do is just do an updated version, just go over some of the numbers we have here on campus. So what you're looking at here, this is from the actual lecture video that I provided. So as you can see, there were just under 3,500 confirmed cases. Again, I believe this was all the way up to 716, if I'm not mistaken. Got the total number of tests, number of hospitalized is 261, deaths are 33. So I just want you to kind of keep that in your mind as we go to the next slide. And over on the right, we've got confirmed cases, cases that were hospitalized, and deaths. And just look at the general form of these charts. Boom. So now we're all the way up to October 5th, which is today. We now have almost 10,500 confirmed cases. Lots more tests, 387 hospitalized, 43 deaths. And then you can kind of see. So I'm going to go back and forth here quick. So 3,500, 117 tested, 261 to 10,000, almost 500. So you can see how it's gone up quite a bit just in the last, let's see, July, August, September. So we're 2.5 months beyond where we were then. And then if you look over at the confirmed cases, you can see how back in July, the age group of 20 to 29 dominated for the confirmed cases. They had the most cases that were hospitalized, 60-year-olds, and then deaths was 80 to 89. Here, we see that the 20-year-olds are still dominating, but the 10 to 19-year-olds, big time jump from they're basically fifth place to second place. And then as far as hospitalized, it went from the 60-year-olds still dominating, but other classes came up, and then 80-year-olds are still the most, but the 70-year-olds have caught up quite a bit. So that's just the general trend here in Dane County. I tried to point out specific things that had occurred. We went from phase 1 to phase 2 when masks became required, the 4th of July holiday and things like that. And I kind of give you a layout of how things were increasing depending on where we were date-wise in comparison to things that have been changed. Well, let's go here. So I put a green line here on the bottom where you can see where July 18th was. And you can see we were actually, it was going up, but not much. The day-to-day was not a big increase at all. So it appears that the mask mandate was working, that people were social distancing, that they weren't overcrowding indoor facilities. Everything was good. And then you'll see the August 25th, 31st is when UW-Madison students moved to campus. And shortly thereafter, when Wisconsin schools started. And then you see it jump. So from July 18th to July 29th, there's an increase of 1,900. But then just a month's worth so it was 6 weeks and then 5 weeks, it went up a lot more, 5,000. And so, yeah, and then if we look at the ages and we look at this, we do see that the starting of schools, the in-person stuff, and campus caused the biggest spike in Dane County. On top, this is the new cases in the 7-day average. You can see what that was, and on the bottom we've got the positive, as far as percent positive. And as you can see from this, and what I believe I mentioned in the lecture, was that due to, I believe it was, maybe it was because we moved to phase 2. And then people were going out, they're crowding more, they're probably getting a little bit tired of it, and so we had a spike come up. But it was starting to maybe come down, but the positives were going up. We had the July 4th holiday that was, going in there. So I put the green line where that was. Now, you can see what happened in September. We had a tremendous spike, and we know where it came from. We know why we had it that way. We had the UW-Madison, and the schools were opened, and so we saw an uptick like we really had never seen since it just started. Here were the inpatients. I like to track, who has to stay in the hospital and be treated versus those who are actually in the ICU. And I'm sorry, the bottom got cut off a little bit there. But as you can see, the other than the beginning, early April, we had a max of 36. End of May, we had some 33s. And as far as the ICU, I see some 10s and 11s. Since we've had a high, we're currently at a high of 47. But I should have put like an apostrophe in there that I had heard on the news that some of the northern counties that don't have any more hospital beds are sending people down here. And I think that may be why there's so many hospitalizations. It's actually at the highest number it's ever been. And then the ICUs, similar. We used to be 10s and 11s, and now we hit a 12, and now we're at a 13. So are they real accurate? Well, let's not look at the high points, but more of the medium points. And as far as hospitalizations go, I probably could add up the numbers and average it. I don't see it changing too much before and after. The ICU, I maybe see it a little bit higher from point to point, but do we have that many more deaths? I think that the ability for hospitals to treat those who go in, I think, has improved. Here is a breakdown for percentages. So we're not looking at trends now, we're just looking at overall percentages. So this was back from the old video, and you can kind of see where things lie. So the 20 to 29 year olds represented almost 42% of all positive cases. If we go over to the percent hospitalization for confirmation, as you went up in age, that percentage went up. And with death, we had a similar trend. So today, now this is a continuation of before. The 20-20-year-olds are at 34%, so that went down, but the 10 to 19-year-olds are now at 26%. So over 60% of all the cases in Dane County are ages 10 to 30. And you can see before it was 8.8, now it's 26. So yeah, opening the schools, having people go back to campus, that's what caused the spike. Now, did we see an equal contribution to hospitalizations and death? Well, before they were 1.3 and 1.77. Now they're 0.29 and 1.17. So that actually went down. So they're not going to the hospital. But who is? It looks like we still have a similar trend. But it does look like everything's kind of gone down. So the overall percent hospitalization per confirmation is 3.7 now, whereas before it was 7.5. So that's gone down. Less people are being hospitalized. Well, and with younger people being the ones who are getting the positive test, that would go with it. So the deaths are, they're now 43. They used to be, so it's only been 10 more in the last, since mid-July. And let's see, we went from an age, the highest age bracket, I'll say from 60, 5, 6, 10, 9, and now it's 6, 12, 13, 9. So nobody additionally above 90, but the 80s and 70s, they took the brunt. Well, I think the 70 to 79 took the brunt of that. They were the ones the most. The next thing I wanted to show you are some of the stats or some of the numbers that we have on our dashboard on the UW campus. Now, I realize you guys are online and a lot of you probably aren't even near campus. What I'm doing is I started with, well, I guess I didn't start with Wisconsin. I could have, but that's so broad. But I'm just trying to narrow down so you kind of know what area would be more risky than others. I'm using numbers to make decisions. As you can see in this last week, there have been 0 reports so far. Previous week, we had 19 students, 4 employees. But if you look at the accumulation, these were all very low until we came back to school, and then there's been some jumps. But there was a week in which we had 151 students test positive, and to have 19 last week is incredible. That's a big jump down. For regional metrics, yes, the percent positive is higher, but you have a different type of population. And I see these trends as being pretty consistent to what I was seeing in the Dane County numbers. It's just a smaller group. Here are some of the PCR testings, and you can see these are the ones that have been done on campus. See, there's very few. So just like 1 or 2 positives give you higher percentages. And here you can see with the percent positive overall, so it's 26. And there they say it's 30. So there may be some numbers in there. Because maybe these are just ones on campus where some are off campus and that were reported. And then we have the antigen testing, and this is these are students who are not systematic. This is a random sampling just to get an idea of what percent of the population that isn't feeling anything could be positive. We're well below what our goals are. I believe UW System told us they want us to test, I think right around 130 to 150 students per day. And as you see, we're well below that. I'm on a committee, and what we're hearing is that students don't want to get tested because if they test positive, they fear being quarantined or isolated, and they don't want that. So if they're not feeling sick, if it ain't broke, don't fix it. So you can see here the numbers. What they're indicating is overall, it's about a 3.6%, which is lower than expected. I think Madison, their numbers are up in the teens or 20s or something like that. I could have looked at that. I should have maybe. And then one other thing I did is, I don't know if you've heard of behavioral-based safety, but it has to do with supervisors being trained to do observations and record things. And it just doesn't have to be negative things. It can be positive things too, which kind of puts a positive spin on safety. And so I created a Qualtrics survey instrument, and the police department, they've trained a few people to do it. I think we're going to be expanding it, but here are just some of the basic numbers that I've been reporting to them. As you can see, in the first week, we only had 2 observations, so that's really not a good baseline. The second week, we had 11, and it was showing about a 50% people are distancing, and about a 60% people are wearing masks. So not great, but it could be worse, right? In the third week, we had 18 observations. That's our high right now. And actually, things went up. Distancing is almost 70%. Mask use is between 70 and 80%. So it was actually getting better. And that really kind of goes in line with what I've been told in committee, that they've been increasing or changing messages. In the fourth week, we had 17. We're right around 70% for the distancing. And we're between 70 and 80 with the mask. So there was no change between weeks 3 and 4. And then the 5th week, which is what we're in right now, there's only been 2 observations so far, and so that's not a good number to compare. One thing I've done is try to come up with different ways to look at the data, and I gave both average and median. I believe because average is like the sum divided by the total. The median is the 50th percentile. And so it gives you 2 views of the picture, whether there's some skewing numbers. So if they're not equal, they're skewing numbers. And the one on the bottom tries to classify what those skewing might be. And so what I did is I combined both the mask and the distancing scores. And if they were combined above 10, which is like average 50th percentile, I gave it an okay. Is that okay? Well, no, just for the sake of this. And so as you can see, there's more okays as we go over time. And actually, I could have come up with a percentage, but there are so few numbers, it doesn't matter. Caution is if the scores were below 10 or between 5 to 10. And then warning is that they're below 5. And you can see we've had some observations below 5. I believe only 2 of those were indoors. One was at a food counter in the UC or restaurant area, and one was actually in the police department. And we just talked about that today. That was last week's. Other than that, it was observation of students cutting across campus on a weekday night. So the observation was after 10 o'clock, between 10 o'clock and 4 o'clock in the morning. So the more positive things we see, or the fewer warning things we see, the less spread we should have on campus. But that doesn't mean we don't have off-campus spread, or they're being exposed when they go back home, or whatever it might be. These are numbers to think about. And the committee believes that we're moving in the right direction. We still don't have all the answers, but we are hoping that we can remain open. And I think everything we're doing as far as messaging, observations, and it should be expanded in my opinion, and working with the faculty, with the people who are frontline, with visitors and students, I think we have a chance here. But then what you do when you're not on campus is of your own fruition, and hopefully everybody is attempting to distance, and they're wearing masks, and they're using good hand hygiene, and they're wiping down surfaces that are touched frequently. That's basically it. I'm sorry I went so long. I just want to give you an update on some of the things that I'm thinking about and doing, but realized I'm only giving you a very shallow view of these larger databases that I've actually built. So we can talk about this on the discussion board. I don't know if we're talking about this week or not, but coming up soon, we're going to have to talk one-on-one again, and we'll be assigning mentors very soon as well. reach out to me if you have any questions.